called once, which means in Spanish 11. Well, they have a meal at 11. It's called once. In the evening. Thank you, Ann, for making that clear. And so, can you turn my mic down just a little, sir? So he said he hadn't been getting to bed because they want to talk till 12:30, 1 in the morning. And so when do you get up? Well, 7:38. So he's tired, but that's the best part about the trip. You just pour it all out and you come home and sleep. But yeah, it's great. And I know they love him. And Mariano's kind of an introvert. Can I say that? Yes. I mean, it's fair. And the first time I went down there, he had to translate for us. And, of course, we don't know Spanish. And I was a whole new Mariano, like a switch came on. He was joking with everyone. Everyone come to talk to him. He was the life of the party. And I go, Mariano. He says, well, you guys don't know what to say, so I have to do all the talking for you. And he's just a whole different person. It's amazing to see. So I'm glad he's there, and I'm glad we were able to support him in that effort. So, yeah. And hopefully next time we'll have it worked out so he can see us. Because we have a camera. Something was not working right. My fault. Okay. Any questions? Good. We're done. Have a great week. I had to have Stan click the songs for us because I forgot to print off my lesson. So I went back and did it during that last song. We're going to talk about to die or Christ is gain. And there's, did anyone know who Josh Allen is? One football guy, 2 football guys. Where's Dave Jr.? Oh, he knows who he is, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't follow it yet.
All right, so
He's a California kid.
he grew up west of Fresno, or east of Fresno, in a little hick town. And Ann and I were down in Fresno, my first work as evangelist. And so I know the area. And it was a small school, and he never got any scholarship offers to college because he never went to the football camps. He never went to all the training, and he never did the summer camps. And because they were small and poor, but he was a 3-sport star athlete, baseball, and threw an 80-mile-an-hour fastball in high school is pretty good. And then, played football as well and basketball. And so he got no offers to go to college. And so he went as a walk-on to a little junior college. No offers after that, even though he played really well. Finally, the University of Wyoming. Can you get farther removed from nowhere? I mean, where is University of Wyoming? Cheyenne? Or I don't even know where it is. And, there it is. Laramie. Think I could read my own thing. And he became a star because they took a chance on him. And so when it was draft day, he was going to go in the top 10 for the NFL on draft day, the top 10 draft. And every team was at that draft tryout for him because they were all interested in this guy that no one gave a look at. All right? And so it's interesting. He threw a 80-yard pass and wowed everyone, and he gets selected to, does anyone know? Buffalo Bills, very good. He became a star for them. Look at Wyoming's backwards on that jersey. That's interesting. And here's the reason I'm pointing this out. Because he says, this is surreal, the fact that he's playing as a pro athlete. And he's been really marvelous as a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. He said, this is the only thing I've ever wanted to do my entire life. And we just have to think about that because, on one thing, that's really good because you got to focus on something. And if it's your passion, dedicate and practice and work, right? Does that make sense? But it's also really sad. How so?
Because it doesn't mention anything about his spiritual side.
Yeah. Because if that's all you want out of life, and it's something you've always dreamed of, I get that. But football will come to an end, won't it? You almost didn't get to play in the big leagues, but you dreamed of it, and now you're there. And I'm happy for you and excited, right? But there's something missing here, if that's all you're looking for in this life. Because if we filled in the blanks, for Josh, he lives for football. And that's what he lives for, right? And that's just obvious and clear. And so the question, I guess, is what about us? And so we will look at a text in Philippians 1. We all know it, so open your Bibles there. And we're going to talk about Paul. And the old King James language uses the word torn. Paul was torn. And you have to love the King James many times because it's very picturesque. And when you say torn, what does that mean? Well, he was torn between two opposite poles. Yeah, that's what your Bible might say. But he was torn, and his spirit is being ripped in two different directions. And he's going to say, I didn't know which one to choose. So we're in Philippians chapter 1. And we're going to start reading in verse 21. Now, the scene is Paul's in prison, right? And he's writing to these churches at Philippi, as well as the Ephesian church, the Colossian church, trying to encourage them. He's in prison because he had this sham trial back in Judea. In Caesarea, he stood before King Felix and Agrippa. And he knew he was not going to get a fair trial, so he appealed to Caesar. And that would be Nero at the time. So he takes this perilous boat ride. Remember, he shipwrecked. That's Acts 27. But made it because God said, you're going to, survive. Everyone on the ship. And so he gets there, and he's 2 years in prison. And he has this letter. He's trying to encourage the brethren. So, well, Paul, what about you? What are you thinking about? How are you dealing with this? And so actually I should read verse 19. It says, I know that this shall turn out for my deliverance through your prayers and the provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ. He expects, because everyone's praying for him, he's going to get out. Verse 20, according to my earnest expectation and hope that I shall not be put to shame in anything, that with all boldness Christ, even now, as always, will be exalted in my body, whether by life or by... So he expects to get out, but is he certain that he will? No, he might die. Like, what kind of heavy weight would that be laying over us if we knew we're maybe going to die within the next few months? Well, that's where we get a picture of Paul's attitude. In verse 21, we'll read. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is what? Gain. Now, that's the word we're going to talk about, gain. For if I'm to live in the flesh, this will be a fruitful labor for me, and I don't know which to choose. That's where he's torn. But I'm hard-pressed from both directions. What would be the two directions? Death and life. All right. Having the desire to depart and be with Christ. Now, for him to depart, what does he have to do? Die. But he doesn't even use the word death there. He just means depart. Like I'm going on a trip. But he sees the destination as what? Heaven. I'll be with Christ in heaven. That's right. For that is very much better. Yet to remain on the flesh is more necessary for your sake. That's his brethren. So he can be there as an encouragement for them and protect them from the evil one. So he says in verse 25, I'm convinced of this, that I know I shall continue with you for your progress and joy in the faith, so your proud confidence in me may abound in Christ Jesus through my coming to you again. It says, I expect God's going to deliver me so I come see you again. But I just love this language that he uses here, because we've talked about living like you're leaving, because we're all leaving to go to heaven someday, depart. And so we pack our bags to leave. We live a life that shows to the world we're going on a trip. When they invite us to do things that get in the way of our trip, we say, no. And they go, well, why? Because my Lord doesn't want me doing that, and I'm going home to be with him. So why would I live like the world when I'm going to live with the Lord soon? And so, but what I want to show this evening, in the little time we're going to take, that it's got to be number one, all-consuming. Every passion in our life, it's just got to be about Jesus and being in heaven. And if it's not, Satan will know that, and he'll find where you have maybe a little passion over here, and he'll use that to exploit you. Does that make sense? Because he wants you to fall away from Christ of faith, and he'll do anything, sometimes with positive things from the world's point of view, riches or fame, whatever, to lead you away so you get your eyes off what's really important. And so that's why we're looking at it, and we could spend a lot of time. But Paul, that's his expectation, that his deliverance will happen because they're prayers. He calls it earnest expectation. But yet, life or death, he knows that he's going to be glorified. For him, though, to live is what? Josh Allen, to live is football, Josh Allen. But for Paul, to live is Christ. And so wouldn't that be the greatest compliment someone could say for you? Maybe at your funeral, but best even while you're alive. For Lewis Kane, for him to live is Jesus Christ. I mean, if you said anything else, you're like, oh, really? Even though it's a noble thing. But it's Jesus Christ. He said, well, it's to help the poor in the world for the glory of Jesus Christ. That's still Jesus Christ, right? It's to evangelize in Chile and bring people. That's my passion. Well, that's still for what? Jesus Christ. Along with somehow directly related to Jesus, all right? And so there's Paul. And so as one writer put it, very few in the church today are so completely and selflessly sold out to Jesus Christ as Paul is. Very few. And I have to look in the mirror and say, have I always been sold out? There's so many things that are so attractive, aren't there? And they get us distracted, sometimes from our wife, from our children, from the work of the Lord. And you look back like, man, that was a waste of time. Sometimes they're blessings, and they give us enjoyment, and they're like icing on top of the cake that God blesses us with, so we do enjoy them. But when they become distracting, then they're a problem, right? It's really challenging, and each person has to work that out. But here's Paul's lesson. To live is Christ. To die is gain. We'll look at both those words, okay? Make it, the lesson will be yours. But when he says to live is Christ and die is gain, we know he's talking about death and life, right? But that's his great dilemma. And those of us who are living like we're leaving, we have the same dilemma. We should. That we know that someday we're going to die. And actually, Paul says, I long to die. And I long to depart. In other words, I have the desire. That word means lust. Did you know that? It's a strong desire. It's used negatively, lust of the flesh, sinful lusts, but positively, it's used the word desire. It's the same Greek word. He says, what does Paul lust for? To die. No, not just to die, but what? To be with Christ, because that's much, much better, but I know I got to die to get there, but he didn't look death as a defeat or something to be scared of. It's just a passageway home. And so that's what he says. But for your sake, it's more necessary that I stay on the flesh so that I can profit Christ. And so notice this chart. To live is Christ, to die is gain. To live is Christ. What does that mean? I'm going to live for him, not for myself, while I'm on this earth. And I'll get what I want when I finally die. All right? So to die is gain. It's interesting. The word gain means to profit. It's in the Greco-Roman world, they're always making transactions. At the public market, you're bartering for prices for some fruit or vegetables or a wagon full of grain. You're always bargaining, but you have to make a profit or else you've wasted your time. So is profit to be shunned or looked down upon? No. This is the word he's using here. But it's okay to look for profit. In other words, choices or lifestyle actions that turn out like, man, that was worth my time. And that's what he says here. To die and be with Christ, boy, there's where you profit. So live on the flesh, he has the desire to depart. And to live means fruitful labor, but to die means to be with Christ. So I can labor for Christ while I'm on the earth, or I can live with Christ. Work or live with Christ? Oh, I'd rather die and live with Christ, right? But in the meantime, I want to labor. And that word labor is the same idea. It's you're trying to make things meet. You're producing a crop or creating something to sell at the market. You're laboring. But here he's laboring in the kingdom. And what is the product that he's making, if we want to use that word? Souls for Jesus. And he said, that's what's profitable. So I think I need to remain on the flesh because that's necessary for you, but it's very much better for me that if I die. Okay, honestly, do you really feel that way? The best thing that could happen to me right now is I could die. Do you really feel that way? Paul's saying that. Maybe because he's old and he has the scars of Jesus Christ on his back because he's been persecuted and whipped for Jesus, right? Maybe because he's fought the good fight and he's old and he just wants to go. Yes.
I think too that he was caught up into that third heaven and able to see what awaits him. And so he's speaking from experience as well. Not only experience in the flesh and what he did, but experience to know what awaits him when he gets there.
Yeah, it's very much better. It's real to them. In a sense, maybe it's not as real for us. You know, I know it's not wrong to want to live, enjoy things in this life, but if we really had a grasp of what's waiting for us, the glory, and that's why we had that lesson, the joys and glories of heaven, I can't help but feel we'd say the same thing. I just want to die and be with Christ. Pam that was here, she's a widow, and she said her husband died, and she says, yeah, I'm not afraid to, I'm ready to die because that's where my husband is. Well, I appreciate that if she thinks she could die to be with her husband, it's better to die. But it should be, I get to be with Christ and all the others too. But it's got to be Christ first for everything. So he says, I'm hard pressed between both directions. Now, if you ever feel that dilemma, Paul felt it. Stay or leave, stay or leave, work or glory, right? And so there's where he was. And either way, it's a win-win situation, isn't it? If you stay and you're working for the Lord, that's a win-win, right? If you die and you get to be with the Lord, that's a win-win as well. So either way, the Christian, you've got it made. Doesn't matter what happens. Didn't you love his lesson? You know, all the things that God allows to happen to us, that kind of just beat us down sometimes, is what he uses to make us in something he can use. Amen. It's really beautiful. And of course, I knew part of Bob's story, but he even caught me off guard when he said, that little boy in the shoes in the snow, I mean, that was me. I'm like, oh yeah, that was tough, right?
That's when the tears flowed.
Yeah. But he wouldn't be able to go up there to impact you and tell a story like that unless he went through all that. And so Paul says, it's much better, more profitable for you that I can use what God has given me to build you up. Isn't that true of all of us?
Amen.
Whether it's just a call, a visit, maybe mowing someone's lawn, ask him to Christ. And so the reason we have this is because when we live like we're leaving, we have this hope. And when we say hope, it's this confident expectation. We really want to go, we desire it, but again, hope says, I know I'm going. Paul knew where he's going to be. It wasn't a question like, I don't know if I'll make it to heaven or not. No, he knew where he's going. And for a Christian, when we get the glorious gospel, we understand I'm going to heaven. Amen. And so he said, that's very much better. So here on earth, I can read about Christ. I can pray in Christ's name. I can talk about Christ. When I finally get to heaven, I get to be with Christ. And everything I've thought about and talked about, imagined, will be realized a zillion times better, right? And that's why he's thinking this. So it's only when I leave. So those that have this hope, we are torn. We should be between staying and leaving. And we got to have the same attitude as Paul. So this is where we just want to kind of make some application. So if you were in some type of seminar to try to get directions and set the compass in your life, and the speaker said, I want everyone to find out what one thing they're passionate about, and then set your sails to accomplish that goal. And so you were asked to fill out this. For me to live is, what would you put in that blank? Now, I know what the teacher's asking you to say, because that's what Paul wants you to say, but what would we have said? Because it reflects so much about us. Because he said it's Christ, right? But if it's anything other than that, it's my children. Now, is there anything wrong for a mother especially that to say my life is for my children? Not in of itself, and if your children, you want to raise them and bring them to Christ so they can be in heaven with you, and you keep that in the proper perspective. But what about the mother or the parent says, my life is my children. I'm only going to be happy with them in my life. What are you going to be set up for? Disappointment and grief. We have a young lady that we care much about that she's disenfranchised from her children. She's all alone now. And to hear her weep talking to her on the phone, it's tough. It's tough. And yes, sometimes it's because you want them to be in the faith. Sometimes because you want a relationship and it hurts when you don't. The Proverbs talk about that. That a problem child can be a grief to the mother. But if Christ is your life, even that is relationship, as bad as it might be or good, will be in its right place. It'll be tempered. And it won't have the same effect on you. And so when we want this great reward, and if it's all tied up in heaven, where Jesus said, don't lay up your treasures on the earth, but in heaven, I'm going to have the great reward. But if what I live for is tied to this earth, I'm setting myself up for big disappointment, right? And that comes in so many ways. Because a lot of people, it might be wealth, right? Then to die is what? That loss should be at the end of that line, sorry. But it's lost, right? Because Jesus said, if your goal is wealth or anything like that, moth and rust and thieves will steal. And there is no safes in heaven. You can't take your gold with you. You're going to suffer a big loss. Now, the word loss there is to lose on some type of transaction. Like, man, that was a bad deal. I lost money. I worked all year harvesting and this crop, and I sold it at a loss. And what a waste of time. Wouldn't that be? Have you ever had that? Right? Well, that's what he's saying here. Now, what if it's something else, like I said, possessions, more stuff? I think Ann and I are finally getting that stage where she is more so than I. You want to downsize and get rid of stuff because all it does is hold you down, right? And when you have nice stuff, it just wears out anyway, right? She had a nice Queen Anne table, and it ended up with a scratch on it. And it came from her mom, and it's a hand-me-down, but it's a prized piece for her. And I thought about it. I have to confess, I think I'm the one that put the scratch in it. And I have to talk to her about that later. But I just thought about that because I tripped over a cord, and this lamp comes sliding off the table, and I look. Oh, it's probably my clumsiness that drug that lamp and scratched the top of that table. But if it's in possession, what's going to be the final result? Now I got to deal with Ann later. It's going to be what? Loss. This is what people do when you die, right? I know, because you've been to one, right? You're picking up as scavengers what they leave behind. What if it's a pleasure? Boy, how come that got down there? Same reason. Ecclesiastes says, the living know they will die, but the dead don't know anything, for they know, nor they have any longer reward for their memories forgotten. It's going to be over. Now let's go all the way back to where we started. Josh Allen. For him to live is
Football.
It's interesting. I looked up his injury report because he just had a brain injury in October of this year. And he got up and he didn't know where he was going, but they put him in the tent and put his helmet back on and go out there and play. Well, the biggest problem with football players now is, yeah. And what do they call that? CTE. Thank you. So I looked back up in college. He broke his right clavicle. In 2017, he had AC joint in his throwing shoulder, right elbow injury, in 2019, a head injury, concussion grade 1, turf toe. I guess they're really bad, painful. They keep you out for weeks. An arm elbow tear in 22, and 24, a non-throwing hand injury. It would be his left one. But then he had this concussion. When your life is football, what's going to happen someday? You're going to get hurt, but you're not going to be able to play anymore. And if your life is football, what do you have left? And not unless you build something on the side, like a family and a wife and something of faith or something else, then football is secondary to that. But if you don't, if it's, you don't have anything else, it's just football, your life's going to be a loss, right? And so, how about Christ plus fun? Does that work? I got a yes. Okay, when I say fun, I mean having fun.
Well, it depends on your definition of fun and how is fun going to be represented.
All right. If Christ is your life, does anything go up there with him and top spot?
No.
And if all people, my wife knows I like to have fun, all right? But there's sometimes that fun takes such a backseat, it's Christ first. If I can't go on a trip, if I can't do this, or I can't play a game because I have something more important to do, it's Christ first. And I'm going to have my fun and joy later. Because Christ plus fun, you just erodes at Christ, and pretty soon it's just fun. And Christ has got such a distant second place, he's no longer there. Yes?
I think there is a part in that the Psalms also say that God will give you the desires of your heart to those who are
Right.
obedient. So he knows the things that you enjoy. He knows the things that you
Right.
can do. And he will give you the desires of your heart.
Right.
Inasmuch as you put him first.
So, and I like that. He knows what you want, so rather than you pursue it, you pursue him, those who are obedient, and then I'll give you what you wanted in the first place.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
If we trust him. Now, if it doesn't, it's okay, because you're still what? Going to be live with Christ. Because Paul didn't get everything he dreamed of. He's in prison, but he said, that's okay. I'd rather die and be with Christ. Because I count all things but loss. He says later in this chapter, in chapter 3, I count all things as loss for the surpassing value of knowing Jesus. And when he calls them loss, he says unprofitable. And he says, everything I've accomplished as a flesh, I count as rubbish or dung. You know what that word means. We've heard it. It's actually something thrown out to the dogs, but it would include excrement and all that. In Roman society, they didn't have sanitary conditions, so they throw it into pits or piles, and that would be the dung pile. Paul says, everything I've accomplished from physical point of view, my heritage, my education, my teaching, my standing, I count it as loss, as poop, compared to the surpassing value of knowing Jesus. So it's got to be Christ only. And then if he gives you your joys, great, thank you, Lord. Does that make sense? So, it's interesting. Jesus, it said it this way. The worries of the world and the deceitfulness of riches, the desires for other things enter in the heart, and it chokes the word, and it becomes unfruitful. And I love old houses because they always tell a story. Yeah, they're a lot of work. But did that house always look like that? No. It was a young couple, maybe built it themselves, carved it out of the land, weeded the land, felled the trees, and then moved the stumps, built the house, probably had a white picket fence around it, and it was their dream home where they raised their kids. There's a story behind that house, right? Mm-hmm. Now look at it. What happened to all those dreams and everything? If that was their passion, they suffered what? Loss. Now, if it was Christ, they don't care about that. All right? Yes?
Well, our dream house is gone.
It's our first house we bought, they bulldozed it, 2 of them. So that's what happens to your dreams on this earth, is you suffer loss. That's right, I forgot about that. So I just want to leave you this simple message. What's number one in your life? Girls? Can't be boys. It'll just let you down. Can't be music. It can't be looks. It can't be what?
Phones
Can't be phones. It's got to be Jesus because he's the only one that won't let you down. Right? Where's Elijah? Elijah, it's not girls. It's not sports. It's nothing else. It's not fame because people like it for a while, then they'll turn to like someone else, right? The only one that won't let you down and you won't suffer loss is Jesus. All right, that's where we're so proud of people that just hang in there and proud of all of you. Look, you're here on a Sunday afternoon listening to just the joys of going to heaven because it will be much, much profitable. It'll be gain for us all. So we're going to sing a song, and we can help you any way. We're looking to Jesus, right? That'll be our life. Let's stand and sing together.